Prepared to hear you.
Daryl Nowak lost his job at the end of February and came to me in March and asked me if I would loan him money to pay his vehicle while he awaited a 401k payout and his vacation pay from his prior employee.
And how much was the vehicle payment?
The first payment was an amount of $300, and so I went and paid that, and then...
Had you ever paid for the car before?
No, Your Honor.
Is that correct, that he had never paid for it before?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so $300. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. And then back in April of 08.
April of 08, yes.
Yes.
What did he need in April of 08?
I paid another car payment of his for $325.
Okay.
And then somehow on the fifth month, he was able to call...
I got a deferment for the car payment for that month, Your Honor.
Fine.
Okay, so...
Due to the fact that I had lost my position.
Okay, good.
And then on 6/3, I loaned him $335.
For a car
payment again.
Is that correct, Mr. Nowak?
I believe it was correct, Your Honor. There was an incidental amount for, I think they had placed insurance or something.
Okay, go.
And then in July, $225.
For the car?
For the car payment as well. And then...
I was making arrangements at that time due to the loss of my employment. They gave me a reduced amount.
Got it. I got it. So far, this is what you owe him.
Yes.
Okay, and then on August of 8, he asked for another $325, Your Honor, which I paid for another car payment.
Go ahead.
Okay, I also paid a share of rent. The total amount of rent was $600. We was living with my mother. She paid $300, and the agreement was that we would pay $150 each. He did pay in March his $150, but from there on out, from April through September of 08, he did not pay any of his rent. I paid that, which totals the amount of $900, which he owes me.
Do you agree you owe him that money, Mr. Nowak?
I don't know if that amount is correct, Your Honor.
That is correct. 150 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equals $900.
I didn't realize I was supposed to maintain an expense sheet in a relationship.
Well, the relationship
what I'm asking you is, Mr. Nowak, did you ask him to pay...
There was no relationship anymore. Excuse me.
Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
He paid the share of the rent. I didn't ask him to pay it.
Well, how else was you supposed to?
No, Mr. Massa. Don't interfere. Okay. So far, he acknowledges he owes you the car payments, correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now we come to an issue. The issue is whether or not there was a loan with regard to the rent.
I never agreed to repay anything.
He's lying.
Just a minute. Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
Yes, he did.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
I'm not asking you anything.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent? All right, Mr. Massa, I'd like you to tell me how it came about that you paid the entire $300.
The lease was in my mother's name. Each month, I would give my mother $300 cash, and she would put in the other $300.
Oh, I understand that.
Right, and he asked me if I would pay his share of rent because I wasn't going to pay his expenses to have him to live.
Why not? You were living.
We never did that before. Everything was.
I understand, but he had no job now.
Well, that's not my responsibility.
Mr. Massa, let me explain something to you, sir. There has to be an agreement to repay.
He did agree to it.
There has to be an agreement to repay in order for there to be a loan. You paid his share of the rent because you were a couple, you were living together, and he didn't have a job.
I lost my job.
Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, but we wasn't a couple anymore. I moved back to the back bedroom after an incident that happened.
I didn't keep track of every time I bought you dinner. And
well, that has nothing to do with...
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. When did you move back to
I moved back in... Okay.
I ask a question, you answer. When did you move to the back bedroom, and what month?
I moved back there the day after my birthday in February of 2008.
Is that correct?
Or shortly thereafter.
Well, then, from April until September of 2008, you weren't a couple. You owe him the rent, sir. What else?
Okay, he also borrowed 258 some odd cents for
I think
insurance
it was
payment.
$228.
It was $258, Your Honor.
When?
August the 21st, when the car company called him and said that they would no longer carry his insurance premium anymore. He had to get insurance himself.
And you were no longer a couple then?
We was no longer a couple, but he asked me, so I went down. I put 258 some odd cents. I think it was 37 cents.
You drove the car. It was important
Nowak,
there was insurance on it.
Mr. Nowak, listen. You want to speak to him? Go outside and speak to him.
I assume it was an expense, that both of us incurred. I made the car payments prior to being unemployed. I didn't ask him for it. He drove the car during that time frame also. It's what you do in a relationship.
You weren't in a relationship anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if you were in a relationship, my reaction would be totally different. But from what both of you indicate,
We were
there
living
came a
in the
time-
same home.
You were living in the same home, but you were no longer living under the same bedroom roof. And there was a specific break in the relationship because he says he moved out of the room that you had shared into a back bedroom. And he did that in February of 2008, and all of these bills accrued subsequent to that. Okay. You owe him $2,668. That's all. The exchange of property will be made within 5 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't realize you had to maintain an expense sheet when you're in a relationship.
You have to pay for yourself in life. You know, I'm not going to pay for somebody else.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Bertello, step forward, please.
25-year-old Ashley Williams is suing her ex-roommate, 23-year-old Joseph Joey Bertello, for unpaid rent on their shared apartment.
Ms. Williams, you and the defendant were friends and leased an apartment together. He moved out to go into rehab. Had a drug problem or a drinking problem?
Pain prescription pills.
You could not maintain the apartment by yourself. You broke the lease. And now the landlord is pursuing you for 7 months' rent. You want the defendant to pay half of that.
Correct.
When did you sign the lease?
We signed the lease in June of 2007.
When did you move out, sir?
It was November 2007.
When did you move out?
November 2007.
You moved out to go into rehab.
Yes.
Why did you move out?
I moved out because I couldn't afford to live there anymore.
How much was the rent?
$1,190.
Do you have any notification from the landlord that they are pursuing you for this money?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? Okay, sir. I'm prepared to hear your defense.
Okay. Starting from the beginning.
Well, you don't have to start back from your birth. You moved into the apartment June of 07. You moved out November of 07.
Correct.
The landlord wants, between the two of you, $7,840.
Correct.
Why should you not be responsible for half of that?
Well, when I moved out, I had developed a problem. I had been in several car accidents prior to that, and I was prescribed medications, and it just got to be out of control. And I kind of sat her down and said, look, I need to go get help. I'm going to move back in with my parents for now and check myself into a rehab. And when I told her that, she agreed that it was more important than living together and, you know, the rent. And so we had an agreement that I was going to move out and she was going to ask her sister to move in with her and take my place.
You had an agreement that you would try to find somebody else.
Yeah, her sister. She had mentioned that her sister liked our place and maybe possibly thought about moving in. And when
Well, that's a possibility. Did that happen?
No, it didn't.
It didn't happen.
No. And so a few days later, she had left to go to LA to visit her boyfriend at the time. My mom came and stayed with me at the apartment, and then after that, I got all my things and left. When I came back and she was there, that's when she told me, look, I can't find anybody. I'm going to move out now. And so I told her, I said, I thought we were in agreement that you were going to have your sister move in.
No, there was no agreement, sir. You just said to me there was a possibility that maybe her sister would move in. But before you got all your things together and moved out, she told you that her sister wasn't moving in.
No, that actually happened afterwards. When I got my
That's
stuff
not
and
true.
I came back for the last of my things.
Your stuff was still there. If the last of your things was still there, sir, you were still there. She told you she couldn't get her sister to move in. You
Yeah.
had a choice. You could have stayed in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, but I did tell her.
When you left in November, where did you immediately go?
The first place I went was my mother's.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there for about a month, and then that's when I checked into rehab.
Did you finish rehab?
Yes.
You're okay now?
Yeah.
Great. You owe her half this money. I'm glad you went into rehab. I'm glad everything is great. I'm glad you recognized it. All of that is terrific. You can't leave somebody in the lurch because you had a problem.
I actually have proof that he's lying, if you would like that. He signed something when we moved out saying that he would be rent responsible as well as me until the apartment was rented.
I thought that was I was signing away saying that I don't have any more responsibilities to this apartment. I thought the agreement was saying
It
that.
specifically
Well,
says
whether
you
he
do.
did or whether he didn't. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $39.20. Thank you.
Yeah, it's case number 494 on the calendar in the matter of Price versus Alvarez.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. You folks have a seat.
All right, each one of you has allegations against the other, multiple ones, so I'm going to try to simplify this as best I can. Mr. Price, you rented an apartment to Miss Alvarez.
That's correct, Your Honor.
ultimately had her evicted, according to her, had her evicted, it is your claim that she owes you money.
Yes.
She owes you money for rent because she gave you a rent check that she ultimately stopped payment on.
Correct.
That she owes you for damage done to the apartment, which was additional damage that her security deposit did not cover.
Correct.
And attorney's fees that you spent to get a 30-day notice to quit the premises. Correct. Ms. Alvarez has a counterclaim. She says that you wrongfully evicted her, that she only stayed for a few days the beginning of November, which is why she didn't pay November's rent. And she's counterclaiming in addition for the return of her security deposit and for the illegal eviction. So, when did she move in?
Your Honor, Anna Alvarez moved in on 6/3/07.
Did she sign a lease?
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
Copy of her lease. It was a one-year lease, Your Honor.
All right, so this lease was for Anna, Vanessa, and Alex Alvarez.
Yes.
Who is that? That's your husband?
No, my daughter Vanessa and my daughter Alex.
Okay, Anna, Vanessa, and Alex Alvarez.
That's all.
Just the three of you?
Yes.
$1,400 a month rent and $1,000 security deposit. The term of the lease was 1 year. Fine. When did you serve Miss Alvarez with a notice to quit the premises?
I served Mrs. Alvarez, that would be 9/25/07.
That was just a few months into the lease.
4 months into the lease, I was receiving complaints from both neighbors on each side.
That's hearsay, sir. Did you go to housing court to have her evicted?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
What is the procedure in this jurisdiction? You serve her a 30-day notice to leave the premises.
It wasn't a 30-day, it was a 3-day notice, Your Honor.
3-day?
3-day.
When?
The date that Max said, I don't remember right now.
When did you serve her with a 3-day?
On the 25th.
Of what?
Of September. My lawyer served her a performer quit notice is what it was. She had
Can
a
I
choice.
see that?
Yes, Your Honor, you may.
I'd like to see it.
That was a performer quit notice.
For being wrongfully accused, Your Honor.
So you understood, Miss Alvarez, that if you didn't leave the premises, he was going to start eviction proceedings against you.
Yes.
You understood that?
I did understand.
Fine. So that you didn't have her evicted, but you notified her September 25th that if she didn't leave within 3 days, you would, in all probability, initiate eviction proceedings against her, which you never did.
Correct, because she decided to perform.
Just a second, but you never did.
Never did, Your Honor.
Okay, when you received this, Miss Alvarez, what did you do?
I panicked and I went to the police department and showed the police department and told the police department they're wrongfully accusing my 2 daughters.
Just a second. What did you do? You have the following options. You can either choose to leave, or you can say, bring on eviction proceedings, we'll go to court, and we'll appear before the judge. You present your case, I'll present my case, and then the judge will determine whether or not I'm to be evicted. You understood that, Miss Alvarez?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Okay. At some point, you chose to leave. At some point, you chose to leave rather than having him start formal eviction proceedings.
I didn't leave till November 3, 2008. I stood there and paid my rent month to month and did all that.
But you chose to leave rather than to have eviction proceedings start. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor, that's not correct.
Well, it was correct, Miss Alvarez, because you have the two choices. Either you say, listen, you don't have a case against me. We didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And therefore, if you want to evict me, go to court.
Okay, yes.
And have me evicted.
That's correct, Your Honor, yes.
This just says to you, if you don't leave on your own, I may start eviction proceedings and you will be responsible for the costs of the eviction proceedings, my attorney's
When I spoke to Max about that paperwork, he told me, rip it up. I jumped the gun. It was my mistake. The neighbor wrongly accused your 2 daughters. It wasn't them. Don't worry about it, Anna. Just throw it in the trash. Don't worry about it. So I said, phew. Okay, I'm relieved.
Did you have that
fine.
conversation with her?
I did not, Your Honor.
Yes, he did, Your Honor.
Then why did you move?
I didn't move November of 25th, 2007.
When did you move?
November 3rd, 2008.
Oh, you left November 2008.
Of 8.
A year later.
Yes, because he told me to rip it up.
So now you ripped it up.
Right. And we went on.
Let's say, and he didn't pursue the matter.
No, not at all.
Okay, now I
therefore
understand.
took my daughter
Just a second.
to his neighbor.
Just a second. You moved out November 3rd, 2008, and never signed another lease, correct? So that you were now living as a month-to-month tenant.
Yes.
Am I correct, Mr. Price?
Amendment to the lease.
Shh. You never signed another lease, correct? Ms. Alvarez?
No.
After this, you never signed another lease, so now you're living as a month-to-month tenant.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And you chose to leave on November 3rd, 2008. Why?
I didn't want to leave, but Max was constantly, 5 days out of the week there. Just there. He would come by to water for 5 minutes. He would come by to just walk and stand and move trash cans from one spot to another spot. I had a patio furniture outside. He would fold up my chairs and put them away the way he liked them. I wear construction boots to work. I like to sit on my patio chairs when I get off of work.
You weren't happy you moved.
No, he was just constantly there, like he lived there.
Okay.
Like he was there.
Fine. He was constantly there at his
5
place.
days out of
Fine.
the week.
You moved. You moved. Where did you move to?
I moved up the street. And the next city over.
Up the street, the next city over? How?
In Azusa. Where I used to rent from Max was Glendora. I moved into Azusa. I had to
you
move
went to
right
a
away.
new town?
Yes, I did.
Did you move into a new apartment?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Why didn't you move out on October 31st?
October the 31st?
Yes, 2008.
Because I just didn't.
Well, you can't stay there in November without paying rent.
I did give him a rent check. I gave him a rent check. I stopped payment because he came into the house. Max came into my apartment. The reason why I left, Your Honors, Max came into the apartment 3 times without me knowing, with no notice, notice at all. The very first time when I first moved in, he came in to rearrange furniture.
I'm not interested in the very first time you stayed there.
The second time he came in with my daughter there.
When?
I believe that was August 20th. My daughter panicked and called me at work.
August 20th of what year?
August 20th of 2008.
Okay, but you didn't leave until November of 2008.
I went to the police department. They told me what to do.
Don't tell me what the police told you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Max Price says former tenant Anna Alvarez owes for stopping payment on a rent check and for damages to her apartment. Anna is countersuing for 2 security deposits and lost wages.
My question is a simple one, Miss Alvarez. Why didn't you move on October 31st, 2008? Then there wouldn't be an issue about November's rent. You owe him for November's rent. You were there in November.
I was there in November for 3 days, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you were there for an hour in November. My question to you is a simple one, Miss Alvarez. You moved to a new town. Why didn't you move on October 31st? There's a simple answer for it.
I gave him a 30-day notice. I let him know that there was a check there from October the 15th to November 15th. That was when I was going to leave. He proceeded to come over,
October 15th to November 15th. Is that when you paid rent? From the 15th to the 15th?
Yes.
Is that right?
No. November. I paid rent from November 1st to November 15th. I gave him a $735 check.
Okay, so you paid him for the first half of the month.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And then you canceled that check.
Yes, I did, Your Honor. Because he came into my apartment again without me knowing.
When?
That was November the 3rd. November the 3rd, I got a message from him saying I went into your apartment again without me knowing. I was still there. We were still moving out.
What did he go into the apartment for?
Same reason why he went into the other apartment the other 2 times. I have no idea.
On August the 20th, I was working on the unit up in front. There's 2 units on one property. Working on the unit up in front, walked down the little parkway to get something from the back, and I noticed a stool outside of a bedroom window with that window broken with the window broken.
It wasn't broken. It was.
Don't. I gave you a chance. He didn't interrupt you.
The window was broken, and it looked like somebody had broken into the unit. I went around to the back as where I was heading. I knocked on the door. Her daughter, Alex Alvarez, who's 16 years old, said, "Come in."
She did not say that.
I don't want you to speak.
I said, Alex, are you okay? I said, there's a chair on the outside of the bedroom window, and there is a broken window in your mom's bedroom. Is everything okay? She said, yes, everything is fine. I said, I need to enter the property because I need to fix this broken window.
Do you have any receipt from the broken window?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have a tape recorder, Your Honor, that I want you to hear his message on my voicemail. I only have one. I have 23 of them of harassment, Your Honor.
Put it down.
Okay.
Not a difficult case, Miss Alvarez. What was the address of this house, Miss Alvarez?
739 in Glendora.
Well, why would he fix a window if it wasn't broken?
It wasn't broken. It was the place is old. I don't know how old it is, 1951 or 19 something, but it was stuck. It was closed. So when I went to open it for the first time, I have one window open and the other one closed. I tried to palm it up to make it go up, and it lightning bolt cracked, and that's what he's talking about. And for him to see that lightning bolt crack, Your Honor, he would have to be looking like he constantly.
Miss Alvarez, you owe him for November's rent. The half that you gave him when you stopped payment on the check. How much was that?
$735.
$735. So far, that's what you owe him, Miss Alvarez. Now, there's an issue with regard to security deposit, Mr. Price. She already gave you a $1,000 security deposit. I would like to see the condition of the apartment that she had before and after.
Okay. I have pictures here, Your Honor, along with receipts of before and after. There's before, the good ones are the before. I put $7,000, maybe $8,000 worth of before she moved in. The place was completely immaculate, brand new, and she will testify to that. She was very pleased and thankful that she was able to move into such a clean
So these
place.
are the after pictures or the before pictures?
Well, those are before and after, Your Honor.
Well, what you're talking about is scratches on the floor, sir?
Yes, severe scratches in which the tenant that has now living in the place has called me on it, and, well, they had to be fixed.
I had a twin bed in the
They
bedroom.
had to be fixed. Shh.
I had a twin bedroom in the girls' room, and yes, one of the wheels of the twin bed broke off, so that's what it did scratch it. I do know. I am aware of that. I do know that, Your Honor.
Well, then he has to have all these floors redone.
It's just a small scratch in the bedroom.
You can't just do one little piece, Miss Alvarez. You can't just do one little piece of a floor. You got to do the whole. You got to scrape down the floor, resand it, and then finish the whole floor. You can't just take a square and redo it. Would you show this to Miss Alvarez, please? I've seen the pictures of the floor.
What is this? This is the front. What is this? This is the front door? I don't know where
It looks like a door to me.
This can't be the front door, because the front door didn't have it. I have my pictures also.
I'd like to see them.
I don't know what door. I don't know where that's from, Your Honor.
Okay.
My pictures aren't that good.
You took these pictures, Miss Alvarez, when you moved out?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
It doesn't look terrible. How much is it going to cost you to fix the floor, Mr. Price?
I have a receipt here, Your Honor. It cost me $980 to have them redone. That's the living room and 2 bedrooms.
What was wrong with the living room?
The living room pictures are also in there. It looks like the scratches to the living room, I could point them out to you, were maliciously done.
Well,
or it could have been from the dog that she should not have had inside of the house.
We don't have a dog,
I'm not
Your
sure
Honor.
where they came from.
We don't have a dog, Your Honor.
That's a picture of the living room right there.
Just the living room, because I saw the...
Yeah, these are bedrooms. That's the living room right there. And it's right in the center of the living room. And you are absolutely correct. I tried to ask my hardwood floor guy if we could just kind of patch this up, and he said absolutely not.
So this is the living room?
That is the living room, and the other ones are the bedrooms.
Okay, so it cost you $980 to take care of the floors. What else?
Well, you got the laundry room. You have pictures of the laundry room, damage to the walls. That had to be fixed. That was part of them.
The laundry room.
The place had to be repainted, and the walls had to be cleaned before they were painted.
That's when you're the landlord. You do that.
Typical wear and tear.
That's the screens you take care of.
Here are some the screens from the daughters sneaking in and out of the property at nighttime.
My daughters don't sneak in and out of the property at night.
The screens were bent.
No, my daughters don't do that.
Mr. Price! Hey, shh. Mr. Price.
Yes, ma'am.
You've got your $1,000 security deposit?
I'm sorry?
You had her $1,000 security deposit? Good. That took care of the floors, and you totally have new floors.
Okay, yes, I do.
You're also entitled to $735. You are entitled to that. You are entitled to rent.
Your Honor, I had to leave.
I assume that if
I had to leave because he came into my apartment with my 16-year-old daughter.
Listen to me. Miss Alvarez, you should not have canceled your check. Do you understand? If you had not canceled your check once you gave it to him, we would not be here today. Because Mr. Price, I assume, has better things to do than to come to court. You irritated him by writing out a check and then canceling it. And you didn't move out until after November 1st. So he's entitled not only to a half a month's rent, he's entitled to a full month's rent. And you damaged the floor. I don't care about the painting, I don't care about anything else. Normal wear and tear, maybe a little bit more, but he spent $1,000 to sand the floors because of damage that was done to the floors. So you lost your security deposit. But we wouldn't be standing here today if you moved out of the apartment on October 31st.
I had to leave, Your Honor. I had to. I had to.
Listen, Miss Alvarez, to me, you're not a victim, madam. I know that you're putting on your victim face to me, but you're not a victim. You had the opportunity to leave on October 31st. You told him you were going to leave. You gave him notice that you were going to leave, and you were going to leave in October. Instead, you stayed till November. And if you paid him for the first 2 weeks in November and decided that for one reason or another your new apartment wasn't ready, you couldn't move when you thought you were going to move, the other tenants didn't move out of the new place, so you needed an extra few days, what date did you move into your new apartment?
October the 15th I moved in. I paid extra so I can have both to get my stuff out.
So you had a place that you could stay and live on October 15th?
Yes, I believe it was October. It was both.
So you gave him money so that you could move slowly, paint, decorate, do whatever you had to do.
No, that's not true.
Well, then what did you pay him rent for from November 1st till November 15th, Miss Alvarez?
Because I was
You said you gave him a
2
check.
weeks.
And the check was from November 1st to November 15th, $735, and then you canceled it.
I canceled it because he came into the place where
I don't
was
want to
still
hear that
at.
again. I'm not interested. I don't care. I want to know why you gave him a check from November 1st to November 15th if you had another premises that you were paying rent on starting October
I think
15th.
it was October the 15th. I'm not sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $735. Your counterclaim's dismissed, Miss Alvarez. That's all.
Now, it's case number 561 on the calendar in the matter of Graves, Boland versus
Thank
Graves. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Graves, this is your son.
Correct.
And you are?
His stepmother.
How long have the two of you been married?
6 years.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Graves?
I'm a facility manager.
And you?
I'm a human resources manager.
Who else lives in your home with you?
No one else.
And how old are you, Mr. Graves?
26.
You got yourself into trouble. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your father says that he paid for attorneys for you on 2 separate occasions. One because you got yourself into trouble, and the next time because you wanted to see your son. You have a son.
I have a daughter.
A daughter. And there was a problem with visitation. So your father and stepmother helped you get a lawyer. He wants that money back. And he says he paid for anger management classes, which were a condition of your probation, even though that was a minor amount of money. I think you just threw it in. It was something like $65. You've probably spent more on him at dinner.
True. Very true.
Right. Okay. Mr. Graves, why don't you tell me about the first instance where you retained an attorney for your son?
Timothy was arrested on a violation of a restraining order and tried twice to gain a release.
When was that, Mr. Graves?
April, I think, or March, somewhere around there.
It was March 19th, and he was trying to get bail and was denied bail once. And
Denied any bail?
Denied bail.
Is this the first time you've been arrested for domestic violence?
Yes.
Was it a bad case of domestic violence?
No, ma'am.
And they would not set bail for you?
No, they wouldn't. Long story, no, they wouldn't.
Well, give me the cliff notes of the long story.
The judge I was going in front of wouldn't release anybody on a violation of a protective order charge because he had released somebody on a violation of a protective order charge, and they went back to their wife or something like that.
And killed him?
Yes, ma'am.
You only burned him once.
That's all you had to do.
So you were released when, who was it, your girlfriend?
Yes.
Filed for a protective order, but then when she alleged that you violated the protective order, he said, okay. What was the nature of the alleged violation, Mr. Graves?
Me and her got into an argument over the phone.
Over the phone? So
over the phone.
She alleged that you threatened her over the phone in
Yes.
violation of the order. What'd you call her for? It's not an answer.
I was over at my friend's house, and we were just talking, and I just found something out, and I didn't like it, so I called her and confronted her about it. She really didn't like that.
Well, because it's a violation of the protective order.
Yes.
Right. That's why the judge didn't let you out. So you tried twice to get bail, and you were twice denied bail. Then what happened? Look at me.
My father basically took it upon himself to get me out.
You didn't have a discussion with him?
I talked to him several times while I was in jail, and
Did you at any time say to him, do something, help me?
I had said help me, but he once again told me to go forth with the public defender, and it just wasn't working.
And so you didn't have a subsequent conversation with him?
About
Did
getting
he?
me out?
Yes, the public defender tried for the second time to gain bail and was denied. And at that point, I imagine it looked hopeless in his opinion, and literally begged me, calling from jail, to please hire an attorney to get me out of here. I need to get out of here. Please do whatever you have to do to get me out of here.
And?
And I made that understanding very clear at the time. My wife was on the extension that if I do this, this will just be a loan. I'm not giving you this money. Pretty much if it was up to me, I would let you stay in jail to learn the lesson. So that was the condition.
Is that what you said to him?
Yes.
And what did he say to you?
Anything you can do to get me out.
When your father retained the attorney for you, Mr. Graves, was the attorney successful in securing bail for you?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I'm not sure of the amount. I don't know the
Who
amount.
posted it?
I guess my father did.
There was no bail. It was a habeas corpus trial, and it was released.
So that despite the fact that the judge said, I'm not setting bail for you, the judge is required to set reasonable bail in order to secure your appearance. So the judge got his wrist slapped, right?
Yes.
Whatever happened with that case, Mr. Graves?
It was, went through with court and everything, and I got put on probation, and it was dropped. I think I actually got time served.
Listen, if it goes through court and everything and you were put on probation, then it's not dropped. If you put on probation, it's because you were convicted. Either you were convicted after a plea or you were convicted after a trial. Did you take a plea?
No, the second-degree assault, the first charge, why I got put on a restraining order, that I got put on probation for. The violation of protective order, I got time served. That's done and over with.
So you assaulted your girlfriend.
In the sense, yes.
How many senses of assault are there?
There's a wide range.
Well, give me your range.
A cell phone at the ground and it bounces up and hit her.
Is that what she says happened or what you said happened?
That's exactly what happened.
Listen to me. Is that what she claimed?
Yes.
And how injured was she?
Not really. Annie, scratch on the head. Our daughter was in her room. That was the main problem.
How old is her daughter?
Our daughter's 18 months now.
So you threw a cell phone at her, you hit her in the head, and she got a gash, and your 18-month-old daughter was in the room.
Sleeping, yes.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
And then you heard something else that you didn't like, so you called and threatened her.
Yes.
And then she said to you, you're not getting visitation with this child because you have a bad temper.
No.
Well, an attorney was necessary in order to secure you visitation with your daughter, is that right?
Yes.
If your girlfriend wasn't complaining about your conduct, there wouldn't have been need for an attorney. You could have arranged for visitation without the necessity of having an attorney.
That's what we had.
That's what you had what?
That's what me and her had. Even after I got released, I had my daughter every weekend.
And then what happened?
We just had a falling out, and it got to where it needed to go, where I had to go to court.
Do you have visitation now, Mr. Graves?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I have her every single day during the week and every other weekend.
Is that because you work nights
Yes, ma'am.
and child's mother works days?
Yep.
And that's by court order?
Yeah.
And that was secured for you through the attorney that your father paid for?
This is, well, yes, what me and my ex came to an agreement outside of court.
It was secured by virtue of an attorney
Yes.
that your father got for you.
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Graves says his son, Timothy Graves, owes for attorney fees from 2 separate arrests.
Okay. How did it come about that your father got you that attorney?
Because he saw that it was,
Don't tell me what he saw. There had to be a conversation.
we talked about it,
Well, that's what I'm asking you. What was the conversation?
that I had to do whatever I had to do to get my daughter.
Well, what was it that you had to do, Mr. Graves?
I had to go through court.
Right. And?
I had to hire a lawyer.
And?
And he knew that I didn't have the money
Don't
to pay
tell
for
me
a
what
lawyer.
he knew.
I didn't have the money to pay for a lawyer.
So what did you say to him?
I need your help.
And what did he say to you?
Okay.
Now, Mr. Graves, first tell me when this was that you advanced money for the second lawyer.
This was on June 8th.
Had he paid you back any of the money that he owed you for the first lawyer?
Partially, yes.
He did?
Yes.
How much did he pay you?
$315.
What did you pay him the $315 for, Mr. Graves?
I never had any recollection that I paid him the $315.
Well, tell me what you claim he said to you with regard to paying you back for the second lawyer.
We actually found that lawyer as a reference from the first lawyer that was hired. Timothy and I went to his office, sat down, gave him an overview of the case. And I asked Timothy, is this the person you want to hire? And he said, yes. I said, you realize that this is just going to add to what you owe me.
How much was the second lawyer, sir?
All told, $3,000.
What do you mean all told?
There was an initial $2,000 retainer that I put down in June, and then later on there was another $1,000 they requested.
And how much did he still owe you from the first lawyer?
$300.
So he owes you $3,300.
Correct.
Not $3,360.
This 60 was for the anger management
class.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I paid for the anger management classes out of my own pocket.
I'm asking you about the lawyers.
He knew my financial situation. He knew I didn't have any money to pay for any lawyers whatsoever. But it kind of came up as it's their granddaughter too. If I don't get to see her, they don't get to see her. I figure that's why they were helping me.
Are you working now, Mr. Graves?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your father throw a telephone at your girlfriend in front of your daughter?
No.
Did your father pick up the phone when he wasn't supposed to make contact with your girlfriend and threaten her?
No.
Was it because of your father's conduct that you were denied any kind of visitation with your daughter?
No.
Whose fault was it?
It's all mine.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,300. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was a little unfair.
It's exactly what we were looking for Judge Judy to let him know this is what you need to do in life.
It's all settled. I want to get our relationship on and continue on and move on.
I'm hoping we can put this behind us, move on.
We can be a father and son.
Don't lend money to any member of your family that you're not willing to lose.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bourgeois versus Lesserson. Step forward, please.
Carol Bourgeois is suing her former employee, Sarah Lesserson, for damage to her home, a broken cell phone, the cost to change her locks, and lost wages.
Ms. Bourgeois, you hired the defendant as a personal assistant. Things didn't work out. The relationship of employer-employee ended badly. According to what I read in your complaint and your answer, there came a time when Miss Lesserson, terminating herself from your employ, asked for her final paycheck, something that you did not give her immediately. Subsequently, she sued you in small claims court for her paycheck. So far, correct?
Yes.
And you lost, and you were directed by the judge to return her paycheck. You appealed that decision. And within the last several months, your appeal was rejected. So far, is that correct?
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get your paycheck?
I did, Your Honor.
And I also read between the lines here, and at that time you also raised before the judge in that small claims hearing the fact that you wanted a business cell phone back. Correct?
Correct. Amongst other things, yes.
Talking about the cell phone?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the judge directed that the cell phone be returned. When did you return the cell phone?
I returned it in August when we were in court. I had brought that along with other
August of
2008.
And 8. Because you say that she damaged the cell phone. That I'm not entertaining. That was already taken care of by another judge. And between August of 2008 and May of 2009, if you had a complaint about the cell phone, you should have filed it, not waited until after your appeal was denied. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Good. In addition, you are suing her because you say when she came to your office to collect her paycheck, she assaulted you.
Correct.
Something I assume you raised at some point. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you raise this assault?
I believe it was mentioned during the paycheck, but the judge wasn't concerned with that and didn't address that because that was not the issue.
He could have. Because the same way that you're suing her now for the assault, you could have counterclaimed when she sued you for the paycheck for the assault. And it was raised before the judge,
right, but
correct?
out of ignorance, I thought that it would balance out. I didn't understand.
I'm dismissing the assault. You get one shot of the apple. You can't come and fetch and annoy courts because you lose an appeal. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Unless you have a police report that suggests that you had visible injuries. Do you have a police report that indicates you had visible injuries?
I have photos too.
I'm not interested in your photos. I'm interested in the police report.
Your Honor,
Don't speak. So far, you're not losing. So far, I got what this case is. It's a lot of nonsense. Somebody who's vindictive because they lost a case. I can see no signs of injury on Bourgeois' right arm or right cheek where she said she was slapped. Bourgeois could not tell me with what hand Lesserson slapped or grabbed her. Okay, that's what I thought. Because even if I believe that she slapped you, which I don't, there is no way that you lost any wages due to an assault. And changed lock fees. You want to give me 30 seconds on changed lock fees? 30 seconds.
She cut my keys. She signed a receipt stating that she would return my house key. She said she was holding it hostage, and because she assaulted me, broke my gate, I had to call the police. She was screaming at me. I was afraid, so I had to call a locksmith to change my locks.
Madam, you lost the case. You've already had 2 bites of the apple. You had a trial. I'm speaking. You had a trial, and you had an appeal. Every issue that you raised before me, you could have raised, did raise, in some instances before another judge. You don't get to waste court's time 3 times. Do you understand?
Yes, but I did
That's
raise
all.
those.
Case is dismissed.
Yes, case number 8 on the calendar in the matter of Montejano versus Martinez.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Montejano, it is your claim that at a party where I conjure up in my imagination there was a lot of drinking going on, that Ms. Martinez assaulted you. You want her to be responsible for your medical bills and for your pain and suffering as a result of that assault. Ms. Martinez indicates in her answer that this was a case of self-defense.
Yes.
First, tell me, on what date was this party you attended?
it was January 11th.
2009?
Right.
And at whose home was the party?
It was at Edson's house.
Who's? Keep your voice up.
Edson's house.
Who was that?
Him. I mean,
The
Nicole's
house
boyfriend.
is actually mine.
You say it was at his house.
Well, I didn't know she lived there. It was.
You live there as well?
It's my house, yes.
Who owns the house?
I do.
And what was he doing there?
He's my boyfriend.
So you own the house.
He lives
with
me.
you.
Mhm.
Who invited you to the party?
A friend of ours.
Who?
I can't say her name, but we were invited personally to that party.
What do you mean you can't say her name?
Her name was Alexia.
You know that person?
Absolutely not.
Do you?
I don't, Your Honor.
Was she at the party?
Yeah, she was there with some other friends. We knew Edson from before. We had been to his house a few times and party. We didn't know he had a girlfriend now.
So you had been to his house before when she wasn't home?
I think he was single back then because we didn't know she lived
Is it the
there.
same house?
She didn't live there before.
Listen to me carefully. Is it the same house you went to
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
How many times had you been to the house?
Probably twice.
Twice, did you say?
Yeah.
Before January of 2009, when were you at the house before?
Yeah.
That doesn't require a yes or a no. That requires a date. Before January 2009, when was the last time you were at the house?
I don't remember. It was probably
A month,
like
2 months,
more
3
than
months,
a year
6
ago.
months, what?
Probably more than a year ago.
How long have you been living there?
For a few months.
This is going to get better. Okay, so January 11th, you were invited by some girl. Now, who did you see? Did you see her when you got there?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
We got there like around 11.
Who did you go to the party with?
Me, April, and my sister.
Let's go. You got there at 11 o'clock. What happened when you got there?
When we got there, we were dancing, and there was some girls already fighting. They were already fighting. I don't know why, because there was some girls dancing on their table, and I don't know why they were fighting, but they were fighting right in front of me. And we were about to leave, but then they calmed down, so we decided to stay a little longer. So we were just having a good time, partying. Even Edson came up to us and gave us a hug, and he was like, "Hey guys, how are you guys?" And we're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And
he does that to everybody.
Listen to me.
and
We don't have a table.
Shh, quiet. How much drinking were you doing, and what were you drinking?
I only had a mixed drink.
What kind of alcohol were you drinking?
It was vodka with like Sprite.
Did you meet any guys there that night? Is not an answer. Did you meet any guys there that night?
Yeah.
Did you end up in the bathroom with one of them?
No.
For sure.
Did you end up in the bathroom with somebody?
No, he wanted to walk me to the bathroom, and I kept telling him to leave.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you ended up in the bathroom with somebody.
Yes.
That's the answer. With whom?
I didn't know him.
Who walked into the bathroom first, you or the guy?
I did, and then he followed me.
And after he followed you into the bathroom, who closed the door?
He did.
And what did you do in the bathroom?
I was telling him to get out because I needed to use our bathroom, and I wasn't feeling good, and he wouldn't get
Don't
out.
look down. Look at me.
And he wouldn't get out, and then that's when they started knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And that's when I told him to get out. I was like, get out, get out. And he got out, and I stayed in the restroom because I needed to use the restroom.
That's not true.
Okay. Now let's just take it up to there, Miss Martinez, because I read your answer very carefully. Let's start with knocking at the bathroom door. You were trying to get people out of the house.
Yes, I had gotten overcrowded. Me and him started kicking people out. He was pounding on the door. I came to see what was going on. My lock is one of those you could just stick like a card in and just unlock it. So that's what I did because the door was locked. I unlocked it. She's wrapped in my towels and he has his pants down. So I go, I shut the door. I go, I'm giving you 5 minutes to get changed and get out of my restroom. I waited. I started kicking more people out. I came back. He had already fled by the time I came back. He ran out as fast as he could. I came in. She's kneeling in my restroom and she's telling me to hold on. I go, no. I gave you 5 minutes to put your clothes on and I asked you to get out and I asked you nicely and I didn't do anything. She didn't want to listen. She kept telling me to hold on, so I grabbed her and I pulled her out of my restroom and I told her to leave. We then started throwing punches at each other because of the way I pulled her out, and that's when everything had started. Next thing I know, I have 2 other girls come and jump me as well. I have 3 of them on top of me by myself.
You mean these 2 girls?
Those 2.
Okay.
Which I don't know what the 16-year-old was doing at my house or why she would bring a 16-year-old to my house, but she was there.
Who's 16?
She's 17.
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
We went to, I wanted to go with her, and yeah, we ended up there at the party.
That you didn't go to until 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Who do you live with?
My mom and my dad.
They let you go to a party at 11 o'clock at night?
My parents weren't home that weekend.
Hey.
Sorry.
Our parents weren't home that weekend, so we left.
She just said she was at home with her parents.
How many times do I have to tell you, don't speak to me.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Don't speak to me sitting down, and don't stand up until I ask you.
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah.
Perfect. So your parents weren't home that night, or the whole weekend?
Yeah.
But you knew it was the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
Now you can sit down. Okay, go ahead, Miss Martinez.
All 3 of them had a full grip of my hair, and I was trying to swing. I couldn't because they had me like literally bent over. And the first thing I grabbed was a bottle, and I swung. I didn't know who I was swinging at. I just swung. I got her. She still kept fighting, and both of them kept fighting. The guys had finally pulled us all apart. April then comes running back in. He steps in the middle of us because
she had a baby with him?
Yes.
And you were living with him?
Yes.
Are you still living with him? No. Are you living with him?
No.
You see what happens? The only thing you got is a baby.
And damaged property.
No, no, no. The only thing you got is a baby. Damaged
almost
property
9.
goes away.
Yeah, I have a daughter that he doesn't care about.
That's right.
No.
That's just a second. I mean, it's a good lesson. Would you ever let your daughter hook up with somebody who wasn't ready to commit to you?
No.
No, of course not. How old are you?
I'm going to be 30 this year.
Is this your only child?
Yep.
Okay. Your lawsuit says that at some point you got into an altercation with the defendant, she got into an altercation with you, and she damaged your car. She says that you started it, you damaged her car, she's got a counterclaim. That's what the case is about.
Right. And my boots.
So, I deal with it. It's all totally irrelevant compared to the much larger picture of ruined lives and disappointments and children without fathers. The damage to your car is this big. Mm-hmm. The 2 of you used to be friends, right? All right. So, when did this incident occur with the car?
March 3rd, 2009.
Put your hand down.
I'm sorry.
Go.
On March 3rd, 2009, Derek Zazeta, my daughter's father, was working on my car in his neighbor's driveway across the street.
Just a second. He's working on your car, so you had a reasonable relationship with him.
Yes.
And you called him to come to fix your car?
My whole exhaust system fell.
I'm just
yes.
that requires a yes or no, not an
Yes.
exhaust. You called him to come and fix your car.
Yes.
When did you call him?
The night before.
And when did he show up?
The next day.
In the morning?
Yep. Yes.
Yes is the
Yes,
answer.
I know.
What time in the morning?
It was before noon.
And where was he living at the time?
I was at my friend Lori's house, and he lives kitty corner across the street from her.
Now, what were you doing at your friend's house?
I went over there because I couldn't go to his house because Christy was there.
Why didn't he come to your house?
Because all his tools are in his friend's garage across the street.
So that's
Okay. He said, bring the car over and I'll take a look at it.
Yes.
Where do you live in relation to
I was
this?
living with Derek in November of 2008.
Listen to me.
I'm
I didn't
living in
ask
Centerline.
you. Listen to me.
Sorry.
I have questions. You answer the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't go beyond the scope of my question. If I want you to go further, I'll tell you. Otherwise, just answer the questions. On March 3rd, 2009, where were you living?
हैं आप सब दोस्त, उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सब दोस्त खैर खैरियत से होंगे। आज हम एक बहुत दिलचस्प मौजू पर बात करने जा रहे हैं। दोस्तों, 2025 में व्लॉगिंग करना शुरू करना अच्छी है क्या? सवाल नंबर 1। ये एक आम सवाल है और आप इसीलिए मैं सोचता हूँ कि आज पर तफसीली से बात की जाए ताकि नए आने वाले व्लॉगिंग के सफ़र आसान हो जाएं। व्लॉगिंग क्या है और इसकी क्या अहमियत है? सबसे पहले व्लॉगिंग का मतलब होता है अपनी ज़िंदगी के तजर्बे, मालूमात, तारीख़ी मवाद को वीडियो की शक्ल में लोगों तक पहुँचाना। आज के दौर में व्लॉगिंग की अहमियत कम नहीं हुई, बल्कि 2025 में भी लोग अपने पसंदीदा व्लॉगिंग की वीडियो देखना पसंद करते हैं। कौन सा व्लॉग को कंटेंट ज़्यादा मकबूल है? लोग आज भी रिलेटेड और मुस्तहिद तजर्बात को देखना चाहते हैं, जैसा कि ट्रैवलर व्लॉग, लाइफस्टाइल व्लॉग्स, डेली व्लॉग्स। अगर आपका मुस्तकबिल मिजाज से मुनफरिद और मेयारी मवाद फराम करते हैं तो आप यकीनी तौर पर अपनी एक अलग शक्ल बना सकते हैं। क्या यूट्यूब पर ज़्यादा मुकाबला होने से नए व्लॉगिंग के लिए मुश्किलात है? ये सच है कि यूट्यूब पर मुकाबला बहुत ज़्यादा है, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि लोग व्लॉगिंग का कोई जगह नहीं बची, बल्कि आप मुनफरिद शिनाख्त बनाकर भीड़ में चमक सकते हैं। अपनी शिनाख्त और अंदाज को अपने मवाद में शामिल करें। ऑडियंस के साथ मजबूत ताल्लुक़ बनाएं ताकि वो आपसे जुड़े रहें। 2025 में व्लॉग शुरू करने की ज़रूरत है। अगर आप 2025 में व्लॉग शुरू करना चाहते हैं तो कुछ बुनियाद महारत सीखना बहुत ज़रूरी है। वीडियो एडिटिंग, आपकी वीडियो को प्रोफेशनल और दिलकश बनाने के लिए अच्छी एडिटिंग ज़रूरत है। मेन तजर्बाकार, आप बुनियाद वीडियो एडिट खुद सीखें। स्टोरी टैग्स, कहानी बनाएं महारत। हर व्लॉग में एक दिलचस्प कहानी होनी चाहिए जो नाजरीन को आखिर तक देखने पर मजबूर करे। तो दोस्तों, आज की हमारी मुख्तसर सी ये बात आपको अच्छी लगी है? अगर अच्छी लगी तो मेरे चैनल को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, वीडियो को लाइक कीजिए। तब तक अल्लाह।